The anti-gun crowd never seems to fail us when it comes to saying the most ridiculous things. So here's a clip of two people who seem to be very anti-gun, claiming that if we melted down all the guns, nobody would get shot.
Do you realize if we just took every gun that currently exists and melted it, and then we never made any more, no one would ever get shot to death again? And I feel that, but that's so childish, and I know I can hear the right-wing response to that, where they're like, well, that's impossible. And I'm like, but the thing is, it's so deeply possible.
It's so possible.
It's so deeply possible.
Right, well, it's not possible, and you're stupid for saying it. Now, the people who listen to you are now dumber for having heard that nonsense. Not only is it not possible in America because we have the Second Amendment that protects the right to keep and bear arms, but it's not even possible in communist countries because regardless of the government structure, people still get firearms. If they can't get firearms, they'll make firearms just like we did back in the 13th century. Another major dysfunction of this argument is the presumption that somehow, if guns were eliminated, there would be no more violence. This is such a childish, immature argument because it comes from a place of ignorance, low IQ, and an unwillingness to see reality. Violence doesn't come from a gun. There's no such thing as gun violence, only human violence. Why do we keep having to say this and keep repeating this simple concept to them over and over again? I guess it makes sense because we have to continually tell them that there are only two genders. Another simple concept that they seem unable to grasp. Violence comes from the human being, which is why, in the absence of guns, violent human beings will use other tools. They'll use knives, for instance, just like they did in London, where violent crime exceeded that of New York City. Yes, violent crime in London at one point exceeded that of New York City, which is a comparable city, and guns were banned. Isn't it interesting how the anti-gun folks are obsessively focused on firearms and pay zero attention to the fact that violence comes from people? At the same time, they want criminals let out of jail. They welcome in violent immigrants, and they want to abolish the police. It's an amazing concept, but when you've been brainwashed to the point that they have, you can't see the actual causes of violence because their brains have been overwhelmed with anti-gun propaganda. Their brains tell them that there's no other solution to violence than getting rid of the guns, which, by the way, will never happen. A big problem Second Amendment advocates have is that we're fighting a social battle with people who are unable to comprehend simple concepts like these liberals in this video. It's not the argument that we have a struggle with because their claims are easily debunked. It's the idea that there are other ignorant people who believe them. Now, this creates a portion of society who live in the delusion. They believe the most ridiculous things like less guns equal less violence or more gun laws will keep people safe. When we tell them it's the exact opposite, because unarmed people are at a higher risk of being victims. They don't seem to understand the words because their beliefs have been structurally altered. It's brainwashing, really. It would be fine if they simply believed those things, but they vote. And because they're given the right to vote in America, regardless of their intellectual dysfunction, it puts our collective rights at risk. We're not necessarily fighting a battle for gun rights. We're fighting a battle for common sense and the freedom from media-driven psychological programming. So we're going to talk about this and many other things with, he believes the world would be a much better place if people weren't so dumb. John Chiara.
I guess.
And our special guest, he's a writer, Second Amendment commentator, and a no-compromise patriot, Braden Langley. How are you, buddy?
Oh, man, I'm a little dumber. I'm a little dumber after hearing that. I'll be candid with you, Dan.
Well, I want to hear I want to get your comment. So you never saw that clip before, huh?
Oh, no. I've seen that clip before. Oh, believe me, I've seen all of these clips. These clips are a dime a dozen. I mean, like, not to take away from your exquisite editing and selection, but no, it's like you're talking to a wall. I mean, Dan, I don't know if you're familiar, but if we just got rid of the sun, we wouldn't have any sunburns.
That's
I mean,
right.
is there really anything else that we need to address? Because sunburns are the leading cause of sunburn activity. Excuse me, sun is leading cause of sunburn activity. And if only we could get rid of the sun, we would have no longer the ills of sunburns in our society. Now, granted, the entire planet would die, but we would not have sunburns.
Right. Well, and then.
I mean,
and the economy would die and the whole social structure would die if we got rid of cars. But we must get rid of cars because there's a chance that people will drive drunk.
And not to mention, Dan, you've got to get rid of the cows because cows are increasing global warming.
That's right.
And obviously, we're back to the sun again, the common culprit. So obviously, get rid of everything. And the people causing all the problem are the people. So if we just had less people, we would have less crime. This is who we're talking with right now. I mean, seriously, this is genuinely what we're dealing with. It's wild.
Well,
wild.
and it's frustrating too because you and I are, and John, we're in this conversation so much in the political conversation, in the Second Amendment conversation. And when we hear such ridiculous things like that, like we understand, okay, some people might not be up on the current legislation or the current court cases or whatever. We understand that. Heck, sometimes it's hard for us to keep up with some of that stuff. But when it comes to common sense things like this, if you melt the guns, then nobody will. Why are you kidding me?
Obviously.
So, John, what do you think? And John, by the way, this is Braden. Braden, John.
Hi, buddy.
Hey, John.
To meet you. Good. Well, this is just a smaller example of what I see people professing all the time. Well, if 8 billion people would just think like me, then all the things that I don't care about wouldn't matter anymore, and then everything would be fixed. It's just
We wouldn't have disagreements.
such self-important crap. Just
No, that's it. You just nailed it. That's it.
And one of the things that they really just don't realize when we start to get into the statistics of it all, when where there's more, we know this, where there's more gun restrictions, there's typically more violence because people can't defend themselves. But they don't see that. I think what happens is something happens in their brains where they get one narrative and they believe it, and which when you hear the same thing over and over enough, you start to believe it. And because if you don't hear anything else, which is why the political left keeps conservative ideas and information away from these people by telling them that, you'll be stupid if you go and you watch any of these conservative shows. They're just lying to you and all this stuff. So these people will, by default, they'll reject conservative information. And what happens then is they isolate themselves to only the left-wing crap. And they essentially brainwash themselves. Go ahead.
Oh, it's a silo effect. 100%. It's a silo effect. So this is the thing that I really, we've been dancing around this as we've been touching on this topic. The thing that's you have to understand when you're doing this, and a lot of people, I have this conversation a lot on our side, right? This is an us thing right now.
Yeah. When
you're talking to these people, you aren't going to convince them to go out and buy a gun tomorrow. What you're doing is you're highlighting the fallacies in their arguments and you're undermining their entire point. They're never going to believe you, but that third, fourth, and fifth person who's hearing the conversation is going, okay, between these two, one of these makes sense and one doesn't. One is an emotional virtue signal, and the other is actually speaking logic, fact, and constitutionality. I mean, when you think of it in that manner, it's frustrating dealing with the people that you're talking to, because I do this all the time on my channel. I talk about this stuff all the time. I talk about anything and everything from a conservative perspective, where it's like, y'all, I'm handing you all the receipts. I'm handing you 30 years of data. I'm handing you analysis. I'm handing you everything you need. And you'll still look at it and go, no, but I feel.
Yeah, right. But I feel. Yeah, but I feel. Well, that's another thing. When you're just in conversation with you, well, I feel like this or I feel like that, rather than I think. It's funny when you're in a conversation with somebody, they keep using the word feel, because you just brought up a great point. It really is. It tells you that they're emotionally driven rather than, well, 100%. I don't think it's like that. I think it's like this, or I think that way. You kind of know that the people they're actually using their noggin a little bit rather than their emotions.
Well, maybe we should treat the feelings. I think when we were talking about this, I said, what if there was a high school course you had to take where you put on virtual reality glasses and you went into a dark alley somewhere and somebody comes at you with a knife or a gun or something and you're not armed and you can't get a gun. And you have all the information where I could have been able to defend myself, but I chose that all these things are the wrong things to do, so therefore I'm going to die. But nobody ever makes it personal like that. You know, they don't put themselves in the situation where it matters to them, I think.
Or I voted for this politician who banned, who created this gun-free zone, and now I'm in the gun-free zone. I can't protect myself. Boy, I wish there was someone here with a gun to help me.
Call the police. They'll be right there.
Right.
Well, the ultimate irony, though. Again, I mean, I know I'm speaking. I'm preaching to the choir right now. Like I know that I'm in the sweet spot, so this will resonate. It's the funniest thing in the world where it's this perception of I'm so intelligent, I am so evolved. I don't need the violence of the past. We need none of these things. I am not a troglodyte. I am not a Neanderthal. I don't need a club to run around. Except, when I'm in trouble, I'm going to call the guy with the club. I mean, it's like, okay, guy. Like, so you don't need it because you don't want to carry it, but you want to call somebody who else does. You're outsourcing enforcement for your own safety. Great.
Yeah, exactly. They until it happens to them, and hopefully they will never be a victim of a violent crime. But until it happens to them, they can argue this all day long. No, I don't need a gun. I never need. It's just it really is. It is tough. It's tough to talk with them. I always use the analogy. You're in the mall Christmas time, everybody's shopping and everyone's carrying their bags of their gifts and stuff. And all of a sudden, some crazy lunatic leftist comes in and starts shooting the place up. Well, what are these people going to do? They're face down begging for their lives on the floor while the guy with the gun is probably going to hide around the corner and try to keep himself safe, and he's got a weapon, he's got a gun on him, and he's able to defend with this. Now the gun owner becomes their best friend. But until they have that experience, they're probably not going to ever appreciate it because they've been brainwashed to think otherwise.
Well, so this is such a good opportunity to do something that's so key. And I mean, we have a long show ahead of us, so we'll get into it more, but just introducing the concept. This is not unique to the gun world. So this is something that I think that we need to have a lot more conversations about, specifically inside the gun world itself. This is not a phenomenon that is only related to the Second Amendment. Like, look at immigration right now. Look at ICE. Look at any flashpoint you want. They have convinced people, and I'm talking about the liberals, the leftists, the emotional ones, right? Not the Democrat. I'm not talking about normal everyday Democrats who are like, oh, I have a different policy position. No, I'm talking about the septum ring, blue hairs, who will literally go out there and say, I'm doing something justified to stop the Nazi fascist. I'm on my way between voting for Graham Plattner in Maine, who actually has a Nazi tattoo for the Democratic Party.
But that doesn't matter.
I'm going to go ahead. Yeah, it doesn't matter, because I'm going to go ahead and virtue signal and do the good deed. Be the greater person. Be the change that I want to see. I'm going to go interfere with an active law enforcement operation using my car as a vehicular weapon. And then I'm going to be really upset when they don't respond positive to that. But I did the good thing. It's like, no, you're being used as a patsy and a manipulation to further propagandize other people, and you end up in a bad position. It is wild. But it's everywhere. It's not just guns. It's everywhere.
No, it's a worldview, right? They think that that's how the world actually functions, and that they're important enough where me going out and protesting is going to change something that I couldn't change otherwise. They don't do it. Well, Thomas Sowell I put up a quote yesterday about the easiest thing in the world is complain about something and do nothing. Yeah, because you can never do it wrong because you're not doing anything. But now the protesters, and they go out there and they try to do something, and things happen that make complete sense because they're doing what they're doing, and they're blaming everybody else for it. Like, I don't know. Do they have jobs? Do they have responsibilities? What do they have?
Oh, no. They're at work. Don't worry. They're at work.
Right, they're at work.
They clocked in 3 hours ago. They've got a mandatory lunch. The unionization amongst protesting is really high these days.